everyone, and welcome to another episode of City Homestead Project. I'm Rebecca. Don't forget to visit my blog at cityhomesteadproject.com, like this video, and subscribe to my channel. Now, in case you're wondering where I am, I'm spending the winter holiday in Michigan with my in-laws. So part of this video I shot in Baltimore and part of it is in Michigan, at Lake Michigan. So I want to take you through our first year urban homesteading and talk about things that really encouraged us that we were successful in, as well as challenges that we face that we'd like to do better in next year. And I have here with me my daughter to share some of what she views as being successful this first year.
Well, when our chickens got injured, one of them died, and 3 of them were injured, but we helped nurse the 3 that hadn't died back to health.
Yep, so that was a major success, that we took our homesteading to the next level and caring for wounded animals and being successful at it. Another thing, the basics we were successful at were I grew things, I ate things, and I preserved things. So we grew a lot in our vegetable garden. We planted some fruit trees too, but we grew a lot of vegetables and we enjoyed them at almost every day at most meals. And then I preserved a lot of them too through freezing them. So that was a huge success.
And the vegetables I like to eat were like basil, like just straight from the plant without washing it. And also we have a little clubhouse and we like to kind of harvest things just little things like basil or little cherry tomatoes and like pretend we are cooking in our clubhouse.
Yep. So it was great that the kids could just get vegetables whenever they wanted. I really enjoyed the tomatoes. I liked the kale a lot. We got some nice poblano peppers that I actually didn't use until the very end, but I roasted them and they made a great salsa. Made a lot of tomato sauce and froze that. Made a lot of pesto from the basil and froze that. So all in all, what we grew was a success. So those are 3 successes right there. I grew things, I ate things, and I preserved things. So, that's like the basics, the foundation. I'm glad that that happened. The other successes we experienced this past year is that thanks to Justin, the handyman of the family, he, mostly all by himself, cleared away 2 concrete garage foundations that had been left over in our yard, because our yard used to be part of an alley, long story, and he almost single-handedly cleared those. I helped move some rubble, but not a whole lot. He built the beds, which I stained, but again, mostly Justin, and he built the chicken coop and the run. So Justin was immensely productive. He even helped with my dad build out our deck. So, there are plenty of other projects too. And that was wonderful because without the raised beds, without the chicken coop, we couldn't have moved on to the next phases. That was a big success. Things that could improve. This list is longer. Something that I wish I had done was to go a little slower. Obviously the priorities were the growing vegetables and getting chickens because that's like ground zero, but I think I took on too many projects. I planted grapevines in a side yard we have in the front yard and blueberry bushes, and they're doing okay. But my goal had been to completely clear out that area, make a path, make an edible perennial garden, and all of that stuff takes time. I wish I had just left that for now, because this past season, I was feeling guilty about not watering enough over there, not spending enough time weeding, not actually completing the project, and it just felt like a big failure. Even though it's still in process, it felt like a failure to me. So I think if I could have done this year differently, I would have not taken on that project and saved it for next year. But it's okay. I can still keep going with it. It'll be fine. Something else that I learned is that I should definitely not plant vining plants near the entrance to our garden. I foolishly planted sweet potato vines and butternut squash and watermelon right near the entrance to our garden. And they all did great, but I had to carefully pick my way over them each time I entered the garden. So I'm gonna move the sweet potatoes to along our fence and actually plant them in the ground instead of in the raised beds. And then they can grow up the fence and make this beautiful living wall. For the butternut squash and the watermelon, we still have one more section of concrete pad in the backyard that will hopefully be broken up in a couple years. But I'm going to plant the vines next to that pad and train them to come out onto that concrete pad because that way they won't take up space in the garden and they'll be out of the way. So that's the plan for those plants. I also want to keep better track of the health of my plants. Things like rechecking the soil pH before planting instead of trying to make amends later. Keeping in mind the different needs that the individual plants have based on the soil pH level. And keeping an eye out for fungus. I lost a cucumber plant and a yellow squash plant to fungus. And I had only planted one of each and they completely died. So that's another learned lesson is even though those plants produce a lot, plant at least two because maybe, if one succumbs, then the other will survive. And if I get too many vegetables, then I'll just make a lot of pickles or I'll make a lot of zucchini bread and freeze it, things like that. So that's what I learned from this first year of gardening. All in all, it was a successful year. I really look forward to next year. We plan to get quail to raise for meat. And I hope to plant a couple more fruit trees, such as an apple tree and a sour cherry tree. I also want to get hazelnut bushes. I only just learned recently that I could grow them here in Maryland, so I'd like to get a couple of those. So now here I am with Lydia, who is going to share what she liked about the first year of our City Homestead project.
Well, when Daddy first got the chickens, they were in a crate, and me and Evelyn were looking at them and deciding which one would be ours. And I chose Diana. I love Diana, and she's very skittish. And I even made a promise that I never pick her up.
Good. Anything else you liked about the first year?
Well, I can't say that was the first year, but when the chickens got hurt, I really liked taking care of them.
No, that was the first year. That was part of the first year. You liked helping to heal their wounds and make sure they were protected? Yep.
Goodbye.
Thanks for watching another episode of City Homestead Project. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel and check out my blog at cityhomesteadproject.com. See you next time.